you doing, guys? This is Eric from secretoftheinternet.com. If you've been watching these videos, you've probably heard me mention a few things a couple times. One of those is the increasing control that YouTube is exerting on the independent content creators and how they're demonetizing some content, restricting some content, things like that. Basically making it harder for independent content creators to get their stuff out there in front of as many people as possible and for them to make any sort of revenue off of it. Second thing you've probably heard me mention a few times is the Styx 666 channel, who does some great content on current events, political stuff, and just some totally random things as well, like MRE reviews, different things like that. Now I get a chance to talk about both of those things in conjunction because Styx channel has been talking about the YouTube censorship, if you want to call it that, and what we can do as independent content creators to combat it, or at least some strategies to deal with it in the future. And I agree with him with the on the issue that a lot of what we're seeing in the most recent bout of restrictions and having YouTube being in restricted mode, controlling a lot of the content, is not specifically related to any kind of political or ideological censorship per se, but it's more related to the fact that YouTube and Google and all this, these giant entities are structuring themselves more towards the more reliable, larger commercial content creators, and probably trying to orient themselves away from having to rely on the independent content creators as much, and are sort of going to be pushing us out from the revenue generating model and from the, how they share the content and things like that. Because as I've mentioned before, the vast majority of views that you will get on YouTube don't come directly from your subscribers, but they come from how your material is promoted by the algorithms. Something like 60 to 70% or 60 to 80% of my video views, and thus my revenue, come from the promoted content. Not promoted as in paid promoted, but how it is shared or suggested. The suggested videos in the sidebar, what you see after you're done watching a video, and things like that. So if independent content creators are shut out from that aspect of it, or if they're not shown in restricted mode when you haven't logged into your account or anything like that, then you are, could be severely crippled in how much your content is subscribed to, how much it's viewed, and thus how much revenue you make off of it, and how viable a YouTube channel or something like that can be. And it could prevent people from doing it for a living, certainly, but could also just make people not as willing or able to do it at all. So Styx came up with a sort of a generalized solution for dealing with it, and that is for the content creators, the independent content creators on YouTube, to band together in cross-promoting their stuff. So he said, if anyone wants to get with me and cross-promote, like, reference each other's channels, promote each other's channels and material, that he'd be willing to do that. He has somewhere around 110,000 subscribers, so obviously I love his material. I've referenced it multiple times before, and before even being prompted by any of these ideas. So obviously I was willing to get on board with him, so I was one of the first 5 or 10 people to say, yeah, let's do it. You promote my stuff, I'll promote your stuff, and hopefully that'll help out everybody. A rising tide will raise all ships, as the saying goes. He obviously has 3 or so times more subscribers than I do, so it's probably more beneficial for me than it is for him. But the idea being, like I said, this isn't a zero-sum game. Someone can be subscribed to all of these channels that I'm about to mention, and that will help all of us. So it doesn't necessarily hurt him just because he has more subscribers, and it won't hurt me to mention any of these channels that have less subscribers than me. It'll help us all. And I've already seen a small boost in subscribers just from him mentioning my channel. I think I've gotten anywhere from, I'll have to look at the numbers when they finally post, but within the past day or two, anywhere from 200 to probably 800 subscribers that have directly come over from his channel. And that's great, and it's going to hopefully help him get a few subscribers and help the other people on this list get a few subscribers, and that way we can sort of bypass the YouTube suggested algorithms and things like that, and sort of help each other out and get past the level of control that they're trying to exert on the way that this stuff is promoted. So here's a list of channels that he has mentioned in his first couple shout out videos. If you want to do the same thing with me, let me know. And post in the comments in this video if you want me to promote your channel, your content, with the understanding that you will also promote mine and the other people that get involved as well. Now keep in mind that this absolutely does not have to be channels that are similar content to mine or to Styx or to anyone else that's doing this. That's sort of the opposite of what we're trying to do. Obviously, if you have similar content, you're not prohibited from doing that, but it's even more helpful for the channels that are somewhat unrelated, because those are the type of things that people who are watching my channel would be less likely to see. But all channels are welcome. I will say that if you're an incredibly small channel, you know, like only several hundred subscribers or less, that I will probably do what Styx and Hammer is planning on doing and lump all those smaller channels together and do a different shout out video, a different support video. Whereas the channels that have at least a few thousand up to tens of thousands, we can do more of a direct cross promotion because it makes more sense that way and there will be fewer of them. So here's a list of about 9 or 10 channels. The original from the first 2 videos that Styx and Hammer is done. And if you want to do the same thing with me and branch out and do our own little back and forth cross promotion, let me know as well, and I will do more videos like this. But the first couple channels are NOLA Girl, and the links will all be in the description to this video, to Styx's channel, as well as all the channels that I'm about to mention. And these are the first 9 or 10 including myself, I believe, that he's thrown out there. So Styx X Hammer channel, NOLA Girl, The Gunman, The Creeps Work, Semi-Agog, Golden One, Edgy DTV, Orangelo, Millennial Revolt, Victor Ulfrichsen, and Oz Nerox. Or I think that's what that says. But anyway, like I said, links will be in the description. I will be subscribing to all of these channels as well, and I suggest you do the same. Bottom line is, sign up for all of them. That'll do a mass amount of help for all the channels, including yours if you're involved in this. And then if after a few months you realize that these channels are really not the type of material that you're into, then you can go ahead and unsubscribe from the ones that you really aren't interested in, or they're putting out just stuff that you just have no interest in seeing. But even that initial boost of getting out in front of all these different faces is going to be extremely beneficial for me, for Styx, for all these other channels, even if after 6 months only 10-20% of those subscribers you maintain. That's still going to be a boost that you wouldn't have had otherwise, and that'll be really helpful to help us bypass the way that YouTube decides to promote our content, and we'll take it into our own hands. Second part of this idea is that, like I said, the revenue generation, and Styx doesn't take any ad revenue from YouTube, which is incredibly impressive, because he could be making probably $2,000 to $5,000 or more a month off of ad revenue based on the number of video views that he receives. He does multiple videos a day, each receiving anywhere from 5,000 to 20,000 on average views. So he's getting millions of views, which could translate into thousands of dollars. But he's taken, I don't want to say an ideological stance, but a principled stance. He uses ad blocker, so he thinks it would be hypocritical of him to take ad revenue, which may or may not be the case depending on how you view it, but he thinks that he doesn't like having to sit through ads or see ads, so he's just not going to do it on his channel. He prefers to make money from selling his books and from doing Patreon. I don't use ad blocker for that exact reason, because I do take ad revenue, and I also think it would be hypocritical of myself, but since I still want the ad revenue, instead of just not taking ads, I choose to not use ad blocker. So I choose to support the channels that I watch with their ads. But I do agree that long term, I agree with him that long term it's better for independent content creators to move away from the AdSense model, because you're stuck under their terms of service. They can demonetize your videos on a whim, which they've done to a lot of people. We see people like Mark Dice complaining about that, and Paul Joseph Watson, and any other politically or ideologically specific or charged content or adult content is likely to be demonetized. I've even had Kratom videos demonetized because it's illegal in some states, even though it's perfectly legal in other states. That content has been demonetized, and so it is smarter to move away from that model. I would like to do that in the future. I've set up a Patreon. Obviously, I'm not at the level where I can afford to do that right now because I don't have enough Patreon subscribers. So that leads me to my next point, and this is not about my channel. You don't have to subscribe to my Patreon if you don't want to, but I do suggest that everyone who's ever said anything or wrote anything or thought about this issue, that supporting the independent content creators, if all of those people signed up for just one person on Patreon for $1 a month, the lowest tier, whatever, that would be the biggest show of support and the biggest probably single thing that we could do to support independent content creators on YouTube or other platforms. Patreon isn't specific to YouTube. And it would really kind of take away the power that AdSense has to create, or not create, but to control content creators. Because once you get to a certain level of content creation, someone like Styx putting out multiple videos a day, you really can't do that if you're having a typical full-time job. Most people can't. You're getting to a level of content creation and time and things like that where you need to have this be creating income for you for it to be sustainable. It doesn't have to be a lot. Obviously, you don't need to be like a CNN or something like that that needs millions of dollars to put out the same amount of content and same or lower quality of content, in my opinion. But they do need to be able to pay their bills still for the camera equipment, pay for your internet, and just the time, the opportunity cost of that time that could be spent on other things. So I really highly encourage everyone to pick your favorite person that you're subscribed to that is on Patreon and just give them $1 a month. You won't even notice it. That ends up being $12 a year, and excuse me, you literally probably won't even notice that. But if even 10, 20, 30 people do that for a single content creator, that's significant. You know, that makes a difference for them, and it probably won't make a difference for you. So this isn't about me. You don't have to certainly sign up for my Patreon. I obviously am grateful if you do, but I do encourage you very strongly to find one person to just give $1 to a month, and that really won't negatively impact you. And if it does, if you're really in that position where $1 negatively a month would negatively impact you, then don't do it. But I also suggest that you go over to my other channel, find out ways that you can make a few bucks fairly easily that would allow you to have a little more breathing room and also to support content creators like that. So I'm kind of rambling on this one, but check out the links in the descriptions. Definitely subscribe to Styx's channel. He has great stuff on there, and check out these other channels at once. I'm subscribing to all 10 of them. I suggest you do as well. Like I said, at least now, give all these channels that boost, and you can get involved as well. And then I would encourage you guys to wait 6 months. Stay subscribed to these channels no matter what for at least 6 months. You can just ignore their videos if it's not something that you're interested in, but stay subscribed for 6 months. And then at that point, if you have totally decided that this type of stuff is not what you're into and for some of those channels, then unsubscribe from those and stay subscribed to the other ones. And that 6-month lag period will allow there to be a big kind of exponential growth if we continue to do this cross promotion. Mention in the comments if you have a channel that you want to do a similar cross promotion, and I'll divide up into the smaller channels, which I can do in one larger video, and the larger channels that can do a cross promotion thing, then we'll get with you on that too. So I think it's a great idea. Check out all these channels, support your independent content creators, and even if you can't do that, maybe don't use the ad blocker on the channels that you really like. You know, if you can't even afford to give them $1 a month for one channel, maybe you can afford to just sit through a 5-second ad here and there and click on the ones that you find interesting. If they, don't do any fraudulent clicks, but if you see something that you think is interesting, use the link from their video. Don't just go look it up later, because that will help them out. And yeah, there's lots of ways you can support the independent content creators. I think this is a great idea. I look forward to keeping in touch with him and continuing to do these cross promotions in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. I will talk to you later. How you doing, guys? This is Eric from my first speak of the day. Never comes out right.